you there are exactly two things standing between you and customers who pay full price without ever asking for a discount. Just two things. And here's what's crazy it has nothing to do with your skills, your experience, or even how good your product or service is. So, what are they, right? So, first, when you build a powerful brand, people come to you. Second, they stop asking for discounts and they will pay in full. That's right. The difference between chasing clients and having them come to you, between constant price, negotiations and getting paid what you're worth, it is all come down to branding. And that is exactly what we're breaking down here today in this episode. So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm gonna take you through um, this topic about branding because it's very important to understand how that really impacts your business. And I'm not talking about just making things look pretty. I'm talking about building a brand that actually impacts your bank account. At the end of the day, that's what we want, more money in our business. So then we can relax and have fun with our lives, right? So today, I'm going to show you why small business owners who understand branding fundamentals don't just survive, but they thrive. They command premium prices, they attract ideal clients, and they build businesses that grow without the constant hustle. So if you've ever thought I'm nobody special or I'm just a small business owner, this episode is for you. So let's dive in and let's go into this. All right. So let's start with something I know a lot of you are feeling right now. Maybe you are sitting here thinking, well, this branding stuff sounds great, but I'm nobody special. I don't have, a big company. I don't have millions of dollars. I'm just trying to make this small business work. This is probably where you're thinking today. Can I tell you something? This is what is called imposter syndrome trap. And I've seen this kill more businesses than bad businesses plans ever could. So here's what is fascinating. When you work with branding professionals and they start asking you questions about your business, your experience, what you've done, what you bring to your clients, within about an hour, something magical happens. The imposter syndrome vanishes. Because when someone that is skilled at drawing out your story, who you are and how you help people, it starts reflecting back to you what you have actually accomplished, you suddenly realize, oh, wait, I do know how to do this. I have done amazing things. I am qualified. So it is not that people are actually imposters, not at all. It is that we are terrible at tooting our own horns. We are disconnected from our own greatness because we live with ourselves every day, right? So what seems normal to us is actually extraordinary to someone else. So let me give you an example. Think about Apple. Started in Steve Jobs' garage, right? Or think about Richard Branson, started with a small record shop. Or Tony Robbins, he started sleeping on the floor in his tiny apartment. Every single major brand, every person you admire, every company that commands premium prices today, they all started as unknown, just like you. So what changed? Well, here's the key insight. I want everyone listening to this right now and write it down. You don't need to change who you are. You need to change how you tell the story of who you are. And that's your brand story. So, your brand story is simply how you tell the story of who you are, what you do, and the value you bring. That's it. It's not magic. It's not like just an innate gift that only certain people get and have, right? It's a learnable skill. It is a strategic process. And this is where working with professionals who understand branding makes really a massive difference. Because here's what happens. You have that little sabotage voice in your head saying, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. But when a branding professional sits down with you And that's a proper brand discovery. They extract from you all the things you've done, the transformation you create for clients, the unique approach you bring, and suddenly you see yourself through their eyes. You get connected to your own authenticity. So you move from being disconnected from your greatness to being authentically connected to it. And that is when everything changes because now you can demonstrate that value. Now you can communicate it clearly. Now you have that brand story that makes people lean in and say, tell me more. I want to really understand what you do or how you can help me. So if you're feeling like an imposter right now, then if you're thinking maybe you are not ready, if you're wanting to be more qualified, in quotes, stop. You are ready now. You are just missing your brand story. And I'm going to show you exactly why that matters and how to start building it. Okay, so let's talk numbers first, because I know some of you are thinking, this sounds nice, Mariana, but is branding really going to impact my revenue? So let me hit you with some statistics that might shock you. Are you ready? Okay, so 80%, that is how much color alone improves brand recognition. Just choosing the right colors can make your brand 80% more recognizable. Just color. Think about that for a second. And here's another one. 94% of first impressions are design related. So people are literally judging whether to work with you based on your brand and how your brand looks before they even know what you do exactly, before they read any single word. In fact, here is the kicker. 8 out of 10 people will read your headline, but only 2 out of 10 will read the rest of your content. So all that time that you spend crafting the perfect website copy, the perfect email, only 20% of people are even reading it. Everyone else is making a decision based on your headline and basically your design. So that is honestly a little terrifying, but also kind of liberating because it means you don't need to be a master copywriter to make a huge impact. You just need to understand branding fundamentals. And here why this matters to your bottom line. 94% of negative website feedback is design related, meaning if your website looks bad, people leave. They just bounce. They look at it, their brain goes, this doesn't feel right, and they're gone. You never even get a chance to tell them how great your product or service is. And they probably don't even consciously know why they left because design works at both subliminal and conscious levels simultaneously. So your brain is processing visual information faster than you can consciously think about it. And here is another critical stat. Brands that presented consistently, that they are always there, are 3 times more visible than brands that aren't consistent. Think about that. Just being consistent with your branding, you become 3.5 times more visible in the marketplace. What does consistent mean? Well, we're talking about having the same colors, the same fonts, the same visual style, the same tone of voice across all your materials. When someone sees your Instagram post, your website, your business card, they should instantly recognize it's all as the same brand. And I'm guessing small business owners aren't doing that, right? Most are kind of throwing stuff together as they go, a logo from Fiverr, a website template that barely customized, random colors that look nice, and then they wonder why they are not building brand recognition. Now, let's talk about the emotional side of it. Because branding isn't just about looking professional, it's about making people feel something. So 64% of women and 68% of men have felt an emotional connection with a brand at some point. People get emotional about brands. Think about Apple users, Rolex owners, people who won't drink anything but Starbucks. They're not just buying a product, they are buying a story, an identity, a feeling. And here's another critical stat: 89% of shoppers stay loyal to brands that share their values. So if you're clear about what you stand for, what you believe in, your values, people who align with those values become loyal customers. They don't shop around, right? They don't ask for discounts. They just buy from you because you are their brand. Now, I want to address something. A lot of small business owners might be thinking, sure, that works for Apple or for Starbucks, but I'm not a huge corporation. And that is exactly the wrong way of thinking, right? Let me give you other examples. Think about Coca-Cola. Think about the Coca-Cola logo. Is it beautiful? It is a red text with a swirl. When it came over like 100 years ago, it was probably just like every other logo, but it's iconic now. It's memorable. Now let's think about another brand. Let's talk about Walmart. It's blue and yellow. It has a yellow star. Not exactly a winning design award, right? It's not a wow, it looks beautiful. Or let's think about Microsoft. It's four color squares. These aren't particularly beautiful designs, but here's what they are. They're impactful, they are memorable, they are consistent. And that is the key here. That is the key insight. Design doesn't have to be pretty, it has to be impactful. It needs to make an impression. It needs to be memorable. It needs to communicate trust and credibility. And here, what a lot of small business owners miss: your brand materials are working for you or against you every single day. Every time someone sees your website, your social media, your email signature, they are forming an opinion about whether you are a professional, whether you are credible, whether they can trust you with their money, right? And remember, 94% of that decision is just happening just based on design. So before they have even read anything that you have written, before they have even talked to you, before they know anything about your expertise, your brand is making promises and setting expectations before you ever open your mouth. So the question is, what is your brand currently saying about you right now? And for most, small business owners, if they are honest, it is saying, I'm figuring this out as I go, or I can't afford to do this properly, or I am not really a professional, even if none of that is true. And that is kind of like the gap we are trying to close today, understanding why branding matters and why is step one. Now let's talk about how to actually build a brand that commands premium prices. So we've established that branding is critical for your bottom line. Now let's be a little bit more practical here. So what does a small business owner actually need to know about building a powerful brand? I am going to break this down into two pillars. Pillar one will be the visual design principles, and then pillar two will be the brand story and the personal brand. And both are equally important. So let's start first with the visual design side of it. Because I think a lot of people hear design principles and their eyes glaze over. Oh, great. So let me make this really simple for you. Here's the truth. There are real science behind why some brands look premium and others don't. There are 8 core design principles that professional designers use. Things like alignment, hierarchy, contrast, repetition, proximity, balance, color, and space. These work together like a secret formula. Now, here's the key question. Do you need to really learn all these things as a small business owner? The answer is no. And this is the key insight. You don't need to master this yourself. You need to know that they exist. You need to work with professionals who understand them. And let me explain this. Think of it like you could watch, YouTube videos on how to fix your, I don't know, your car transmission. You could probably figure it out eventually, but would you rather just take it to a mechanic who's done it thousands of times and really know exactly what they're doing? Obviously, right. Okay, so branding is kind of like the same thing. There are tools now. There are a lot of image creators. There's Canva templates, all sort of DIY options, and those tools are incredibly powerful. But here's the critical distinction. Having the tool doesn't mean you know the strategy. Think about it like this. Giving someone professional photography equipment doesn't make them a professional photographer. The camera is just the tool. It is the understanding of the composition, the timing, and storytelling that creates the powerful image. So AI and design tools are the same way. They are incredibly powerful instruments, but without understanding the design principles, the alignment, the hierarchy, the use of space, the color psychology, you're just guessing and hoping for the best. So when someone lands on your website and immediately they think this looks professional versus this looks cheap, that is the design principle at work. When materials have proper space, what designers they call it a breathing room, your brain automatically rates it as more premium. Think about Apple's website. Everything is so spacious. Our luxury brands, tons of white space, very intentional use of the color and the imagery. Compare that to a cluttered website where everything is crammed together and fighting for attention. One feels expensive, the other feels desperate. And here's what I want you to understand. This is why working with a strategic creative team is worth the investment because they understand how to use contrast to draw the eye to what's important, right? What is it that you want to communicate? They know how to use repetition to build recognition. They understand the color psychology. So actually, let me talk about the color psychology. That's good to talk this for a moment because I think people probably underestimate this a little bit. So blue is the color of trust. That is why 1/3 of the world's top brands include brand in their colors, like banks, tech companies, healthcare. They all use blue because it subconsciously communicates trust and stability. And this isn't just somebody's opinion. This is backed with psychology research and about how humans respond to different colors. Let's talk about another color. Let's talk about the pink color. This one is one of the most powerful colors you can use. It balances masculine and feminine energy. It's approachable yet confident. But a lot of people avoid it because they think that it is too feminine or not serious enough, which is crazy because it actually is one of the best colors for building brand and connection. Look at T-Mobile, that brand, or it's like it positions as a powerful, like it's a world wearing pink shirt. So well, like yeah, like that brand is like amazing in terms of like how they position themselves, but it's just literally using the powerful colors that really helps. So the takeaway on the visual design is this. These principles exist for a reason. They are backed by research and psychology, and that is rather than just doing your own thing, like work with people who understand them and have them, work on your branding so can help you stand out as a professional. Because here's the bottom line. Your visual brand is either making you look like a premium professional or like someone who can afford to do things properly. And when people see can't afford to do things properly, they assume you can't really deliver quality work. Even if that is completely untrue, even if you're the best in your field, first impressions matter. And 94% of first impressions are design related. We have already established that. Okay, so now that that's the one of the pillars. Pillar one is the visual design. Now we're going to talk about the second pillar, which is the brand story and the personal brand side of it. This is where everything comes together. And I want to be real clear about something here. Your personal brand is now the most important brand you have, more important than your company brand. This shift really happened when social media came on the scene, probably around 2003, 2004, somewhere in there. Before that, it was kind of like you have your company brand, and that was fine. But now people buy from people. They want to know who they are working with, right? So even if you have a company, your personal brand really matters. Think about it. Elon Musk personal brand is as important as the Tesla brand. Tony Robbins is his brand. The personal brand that has become the most powerful brand you can build is really powerful, right? And for small business owners, this is actually an advantage because you are probably the face of your business anyway. You're trying to build some, corporate entity. You're building a personal brand around your expertise, your values, your story. And this is where the brand story framework comes in. Remember what I said earlier. You're not changing who you are. You're changing how you tell the story of who you are. That is your brand story. And there are 6 success factors that every powerful brand has. Let me walk you through them. Success factor number 1, visibility and credibility. You need to be seen and you need to be trusted. These go hand in hand. You can be visible but not credible. That is just noise. You can be credible but not visible. Nobody really knows about you. You really need both. So how do you build visibility as a small business owner then? Well, you have strategic content, consistent presence, showing up where your ideal clients are. But here's the key. It is not just about being everywhere. It's about being memorable and credible whenever you show up. So let's talk about the success factor number 2, which is consistency. This is one that most business owners miss. Brands that are presenting consistently are 3.5 times more visible. We are already talked about that as a stat earlier, right? But that consistency isn't just about using the same logo. It's about showing up the same way, sounding the same way, looking the same way across all platforms. So when someone follows you, let's say on Instagram, or visit your website, or gets your email, it should all feel like the same brand, the same voice, the same values, the same visual identity. Let's go into the success factor number 3 now, which is the emotional connection. And remembering those stats again, where 64% of women and 68% of men have felt an emotional connection with a brand, right? So this is huge. People don't just buy products or services, they buy feelings, transformations, identities. So how do you create emotional connection then? Well, you use storytelling, vulnerability, showing people who you really are, what you really stand for, sharing your why you do what you do, what drives you, what you believe in. And this is where a lot of business owners really get uncomfortable, right? Because it feels vulnerable to share your story. But here's the thing. That vulnerability is exactly what creates the connection, right? People don't connect with perfection. They connect with authenticity. And let's go into now the success factor number 4, which is the the values alignment. And this ties directly to that stat about that 89% of shoppers staying loyal to brands that share their values is so important. You need to be clear about what you stand for, what you believe in, what you won't compromise on. And not everyone will resonate with your values, and that's okay. In fact, that is great. You're not trying to appeal to everyone. You're trying to deeply resonate with the right people that want to connect with you. Okay? So that's kind of like what I like to share in that sense. And people who share those values, would would love you if they really resonate with you. So it's really important. Okay, let's go to the success factor number 5, which is the visual identity. And this goes back to pillar 1 when I talked about your visual brand that needs to reinforce your brand story. The colors you choose, the imagery you use, the overall aesthetic. It all needs to align with who you are and what you stand for. So if you are like kind of like a high-end consultant, your visual brand should reflect that sophistication. Lots of space, elegant typography, probably blues and blacks and silvers. But if you are a creative agency, maybe for a startup, maybe you are just using bolder colors, more dynamic layouts, edgier photography. The visual brand tells the story before words ever do. And finally, let's move into factor number 6, which is the storytelling piece of it. And this is how you communicate everything that we just talked about: your origin story, your client success stories, the transformation you create. And this is the brand story that keeps people coming back to you. And here's the powerful framework for this: people need to understand 3 things about your brand story. One, where you come from, basically your origin, your journey. Two, where you are now, your expertise, your unique approach. And 3, where you can take them. That is the transformation you offer. So it's the past, the present, and the future. That's your brand story arc. And when you communicate that clearly and consistently, with strong visual design supporting it, with emotional connection, with that, when with showing the value alignment, that is when you build a brand that commands premium prices. So because people aren't just buying your service, they're just buying your story. They're buying the transformation. They're buying, membership in a community, let's say, or they're buying your values, how you stand up for, what do you stand up for, and that is worth paying full price for, right? You don't go, maybe to Tiffany's store and ask for a discount. You don't ask Rolex for a discount either. You don't ask, those are brands that they have such a powerful presence that you don't even think about going asking for a discount, because the brand story is so powerful that price really justify it, you know? And that is available to every business owner. It doesn't matter, okay? Every single one. You just have to do the work of building that brand story and presenting it professionally and consistently. Consistently is so important. Okay, we have covered a lot of ground in this episode. So let's bring this home with some key takeaways and action steps for you. So let's do the takeaway number 1, which is your brand story is the gap between where you are and where you want to be. If clients aren't coming to you, if people are always asking for discounts, if you feel like you're hustling constantly, it is not because you are not good enough. It is because you haven't told your brand story effectively. Again, communication is key here. The second takeaway is professional branding isn't an expense, it is an investment. It is the difference between chasing clients and having them come to you at full price. It is the difference between looking like a struggling startup and looking like a premium professional. Let's go to the third takeaway, which is design plus story equals premium pricing without the discount request. You need both. You need great design with no story. It's just, pretty pictures, right? That doesn't really do much. If you have a great story, but you have a really poor design, that makes you look unprofessional. But when you combine both, it's when magic happens. And then the fourth takeaway is you don't need to be famous to have a powerful brand. You need to be strategic about how you present yourself. Every major brand started as an unknown. The only difference is that they learn to tell their story professionally and consistently. The fifth one is the principles we talk about exist for a reason, which is they're all backed by research and psychology. So if you work with people who understand those things rather than trying to DIY everything, yes, there are tools available now. It really helps, but tools without the strategy is just expensive, expensive guessing. And again, you ended up wasting time and then not getting good results. So here's your action step for this week. Look at your current brand materials. Look at your website, your social media profiles, your business cards, whatever you're using right now. And ask yourself this question: do they pass the 8-second test? If someone looked at your materials for 8 seconds, would they understand what you do and trust you enough to really want to learn from you or work with you? 8 seconds. That's all you get. So be honest to yourself. Does your current brand create that immediate impression of credibility and professionalism? Does it look like something you kind of like threw together quickly? And here's the second question. Are you telling your brand story or are you just listing what you do? Because there's a huge difference with that. Like in my case, I'm a business consultant. It's not like that, saying that is not like a brand story. If I say I help entrepreneurs scale from 6 figures to 7 figures without burning out by implementing systems that work, that is the beginning of a brand story. You're painting a picture of the transformation, not just describing my job title that I'm a consultant. So think about this. What's your brand story? Where did you come from? Where are you now? Where can you take your clients? Can you articulate that in a way that makes people lean in and say, tell me more? And remember, when you have a powerful brand, people don't ask, again, Tiffany's for a discount, right? They don't ask Rolex for discounts. They pay full price because the brand story is that compelling. So your turn is right now is to build that brand. You have everything you need right now to get this done. You just need to tell your story strategically and present it professionally. And if you need help with that, that is exactly what branding professionals do. They help you extract your story, position it strategically, and present it in a way that commands those premium prices that you're looking for your business. Every major brand started exactly where you're at right now. The only difference is they took the next step. So take the next step. Your brand story is waiting to be told. So thank you so much again for joining me today. Until next time, build your brand, tell your story, and command your worth. Great to see you.